I'm meeting Jason Gorman today, and we are in front of the mansion of Bletchley Park. Jason, could you introduce first the location?
Yeah, Bletchley Park is a site that was used in the Second World War by the code-breaking teams that cracked the German codes. Stationed here, the code name for the place was Station X because it was the 10th listening station. So all the intercepted radio signals and so on and so forth and telexes would come through here. So it was essentially just one enormous information system. The mansion we see behind us obviously dates back a lot further than World War II. It's in the arts and crafts style, so it's a nice mansion but slightly odd. The site itself operated in total secrecy during the war, and that secrecy was maintained for several decades afterwards. So the pivotal role it played in ending the Second World War and coming to that decisive victory for the Allies was sort of lost in the mists of time, lost to secrecy until the late 1970s when it was declassified. By which time the place had become quite run down. It was owned by British Telecom, who were using it as a training venue, and it had fallen into disrepair. The huts that were used by many of the code breakers are still in a very sorry state of repair. And it looked as if the place was going to be closed down and sold off to property developers until some enthusiasts and people who'd worked at Bletchley Park during the war decided to do something about this. This was in the 1990s, I think, beginning of the 1990s. So they managed to organise a campaign and raise the funds to buy Bletchley Park and turn it into a museum and a visitor attraction. And it's run at a fairly low-key level, very much at a subsistence in terms of funding. It hasn't been getting funding from things like English heritage and stuff like that in the past. So it's relied on a small number of visitors and a small number of enthusiasts. And very recently, things did not look good for Bletchley Park, but thankfully, due to the efforts of people like Dr. Sue Black and many other volunteers who've helped raise the profile of the place, it's now getting a lot more visitors. I think 3 times as many visitors this year as the year before. They're beginning to raise money. There's the prospect of some lottery commission funding on the horizon as well. So if they get this money, they're going to turn this place into a world-beating visitor attraction and a research and business park and do all sorts of wonderful things with it.
You are participating in this fundraising effort?
Yes, and today is part of that. So today, the Software Craftsmanship conference that we're at now, all the money from registration goes directly to helping Bletchley Park.
And the reason is that it is the birthplace of computing science, or?
Not necessarily the birthplace of computing science, but certainly it's the place where the first programmable electronic computer, called Colossus, was operated. So that was built by Tommy Flowers from British Telecom, and a lot of very famous computer scientists worked here as code breakers and built machines and did computer science and mathematics to help crack code specifically. So most famously Alan Turing was based here throughout the war. So it is the birthplace of modern computing. It's the birthplace of the programmable electronic computer.
And it's a wonderful location for Software Craftsmanship conference. You are the organizer of the conference. Can you first tell me what it means for you specifically to be a software craftsman? What's the most important element of software craftsmanship for you?
I think the most important element is caring about the quality of the software and the quality of the code that you produce. It's sad, but it's true, but there are large numbers of well-paid professional programmers out there who honestly don't really seem to care about whether or not the code they deliver works, whether it's reliable, whether the customer can use it, whether it's maintainable by other programmers. So I think that's the most important thing about craftsmanship, is how much do you care? Does it bother you? Does your professional pride stop you from handing over code to your business or to your client that is not as good as you could have made it?
What stops us developers to deliver better code or to care?
Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know, because I care a lot and I don't understand. When I meet programmers, it's hard for me to put myself in their mind as to why they don't seem to care as much as I do. So I don't understand what their motivations are and why they wouldn't care. I do know that software development is very hard and you have to be very disciplined to produce good code. It's not an easy job. So I think that some element is probably just, laziness. The job's hard enough as it is, and most teams are under a lot of pressure. I mean, you do find a lot of programmers that do shoddy work or don't do great coding, not because they don't care necessarily, but because they're not supported in that, and they're working with other people who don't care and who aren't really going to appreciate the work that they do, and they're working for people who are much more focused on deadlines and on profits than they are on the quality of what gets delivered.
What can we do to raise the bar? What can we do to make more people care?
Well, the most important thing I think is to put yourself out there. I mean, it's good. I think it's very good for you to sit at home and practice and to hang around with people that care as much as you do. And today is a great opportunity for 130 people who care very passionately to get together. But we're kind of preaching to the choir here. I don't think there's anybody here who thinks that software craftsmanship is a waste of time. We need to put ourselves out there. When we're working with people that maybe aren't as enthusiastic as we are about this, it's an opportunity for us to share our enthusiasm. And sometimes that doesn't work and we just rub people up the wrong way, and we earn a reputation for being difficult or being prima donnas. But very often when you work with people, their lack of enthusiasm has just kind of happened over time, and maybe it's been so long since they worked with someone who was enthusiastic and did have pride in their work. And also to lead by example. So if you're the only guy on the team doing test-driven development, carry on doing test-driven development. Don't give up and think, well, what's the point? If no one else is doing it, I'm not going to bother either. So lead by example. Try and share your enthusiasm with other people and do what you can to encourage people, and there will always be those people who, for whatever reason, have just lost their enthusiasm, and being around someone that does care might reawaken them.
Some words about the conference.
Yeah.
So it's the second edition of the European Software Craftsmanship Conference, isn't it? And I think this year it is already a European. You told me people from Germany.
People from Germany, from Sweden, from France, obviously, from Spain. So people coming from all over Europe. Yes.
What is your vision for this conference? What are you trying to achieve?
It's kind of evolving. So to some extent, I'm just seeing how it evolves. But the original idea was just if we get enough people together who are enthusiastic and see what happens. So the first conference we did at the BBC last year, and it was quite successful, and we had more than half the sessions involved hands-on programming, but there were still quite a few talks and presentations, and the feedback I got afterwards was it was the hands-on stuff that people really gravitated towards. They liked that. And more as a kind of a reaction to a lot of the agile conferences, for example, where it seems to be less and less hands-on coding. So I've kind of pushed it the other way and said, let's make this conference as hands-on as possible. Let's do away with the talks and the more kind of managerial or philosophical aspects of it, and let's just get coding and see what happens. So I think with that vision is proving popular. I think people were quite keen to come to this one because of the hands-on aspect, because it seems to be missing from a lot of conferences now. And hopefully also to rally a community. It's 130 people who, many of whom have blogs or are very active or go to other conferences. So it's a great opportunity for us all to get together and sort of rally our forces, organise a little bit, and maybe a few initiatives will come out of these in terms of maybe people writing books or people organising other conferences or organising regular dojos and stuff like that.